Let us meditate for some time. Let us chant Omkara. वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते 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 वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमः शिवाय।
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 गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ध्यानमूलं गुरोर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरोर्पदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरोर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुकृपा। आत्मदर्शनं ब्रह्मदर्शनं आत्मदर्शनं ब्रह्मदर्शनं ब्रह्मदर्शनं सत्यदर्शनं सत्यदर्शनं हरिः ओम्। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। Sit silently. Become aware of all the sounds external. Become aware of the gross sounds. Become aware of the sounds in the street, sounds in the room. Shift your awareness to the body. Become aware of your leg. Aware of your thighs. Aware of your stomach. Aware of your back, chest, face, head. Become aware of your breathing. As you become aware of the breath, you start feeling deep peace within. The mind becomes more and more silent because breath and mind are related. Sit with the understanding that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am pure consciousness. Thoughts may come and go. You have nothing to do with the thoughts. You are pure awareness, Sakshi, the witness. असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
ओम शांति शांति शांति।
Slowly open your eyes. यस्तु सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मान एव अनुपश्यति सर्वभूतेषु च आत्मानं ततो न विजुगुप्सते। यस्मिन् सर्वाणि भूतानि आत्मैव अभू विजानतः तत्र को मोहः कशोक एकत्वम् अनुपश्यतः। See, these are two conditions which are told for becoming free from all kinds of suffering. There are two conditions. One is to see the consciousness, the supreme reality in everything. All that is there is consciousness only. The other understanding is that consciousness is there in all the living beings. In other words, inside and outside, both you have to experience and understand life as consciousness only. So both are required. If you just say all this is consciousness, then you are missing your inner self. If you say my inner self alone is consciousness, then outer reality is matter, then there is a disconnect. So the complete total realization is all this is consciousness. Everything in our life is consciousness. There is a richness consciousness, there is a poverty consciousness, there is individual consciousness, there is universal consciousness, there is divine consciousness, the supreme consciousness. These are all various aspects of consciousness. The journey of life is journey into consciousness. From matter to consciousness, that is the journey. Realizing that all living beings are of the nature of consciousness, that consciousness, supreme reality resides in all living beings, frees you from all suffering. Our suffering in life is because we see the duality, separation between self and the other, separation between myself and the existence. This duality has to disappear. Where there is duality, there is stress. Where there is no duality, there is no stress. This you can see in a simple way in your life. When you are in the company of your friends, when you are in the company of your relatives, when you are in the company of people whom you like, you are stress free. You feel that oneness. The moment you find people who are other than yourself, with whom you are not comfortable, there is a stress. The stress is because of the feeling of separation. If you are able to feel that oneness with the total existence, the stress disappears. So this is the journey of life. Can we find that oneness with the existence? And how can we find that? Are explained in the next shloka. Where there is duality, there is fear. Where there is fear, there is desire. Where there is desire, there is work. Where there is work, there is a conflict. Where there is conflict, there is stress. This is life. What you can do, if you are able to move from this duality to non-duality, life will become stress-free. What is non-duality is to see everything as consciousness only, including your inner self. If you are able to develop that vision, experience life in that way, life will become free. Tatra ko mohaha, where there is attachment. Attachment is there for us when we see the difference. When we identify with something and see something as valuable, something as less valuable, so there is attachment. Now everything you see, experience as divine and sacred, there is no attachment. There is only deep respect, deep peace, deep love, deep compassion. The attachment drops. Attachment to a particular is called moha. Attachment, the freedom from moha, freedom to from attachment to the particular frees your inner consciousness and you experience the infinite universal love. So the journey of life is from individual consciousness. Individual consciousness is an individual identity. I am a body, I am a mind, I am an intellect, I am so and so, so and so. From individual consciousness, you move on to a witness consciousness, which is universal consciousness. From universal consciousness, you experience life as one flow of energy, which is light, vibration, and sound. That is divine consciousness. Then you experience life as a totality, which is a supreme consciousness. So here what I am speaking of is the experience in 2 slokas, the experience of supreme consciousness. There is no other than one reality. That one reality became aham, individual consciousness, and idam, world consciousness, object consciousness. It became subject and the object. And between the subject and object, there is interaction in the form of energy exchange, which is we call as mind action. So when you rise above this, see the totality as one consciousness, there is a freedom. So this is the shloka. Now how do you achieve that is explained in the next shlokas. So this actually is explained tatra ko moha ko shlokaha in couple of incidents in lives of saints. One of the saints called Kumbara. He is called Gora Kumbara. He was he was selling pots, and when he goes to the city, he used to carry what we call as the food in the afternoon. One day the dog snatched the food and started running. Gora Kumbara chased the dog, started chasing the dog, and people told him, "Why are you chasing the dog? Stop, I'll give food." I am chasing the dog because dog has taken only my rotis. I am trying to give it ghee. So you are able to see the divine, the consciousness in that animal, the dog, in the living being, in the non-living being. When you are able to experience that oneness, you become free. Our problem is we experience the fragmented consciousness. We see the differentiated consciousness, but we don't experience the totality of consciousness, oneness of consciousness. So that is the way to freedom. Sa Paryaga Uccha Krama Akaya Vranam Asnaviram Shuddham Papaviddam Kavir Manishi Paribhu Swayambhu Yatha Tatyato Artha Vedadha Shashwatibhyaha Samabhyaha. So now there the realization of that universal consciousness is given in a little bit more detail. It's all pervading. There's no place where that universal consciousness is not there. The divine consciousness is all pervading, Anurenu Tranakashta, the smallest of the small, the largest of the large, the dirtiest and the most sacred. Everything is pervaded by that universal consciousness. There is no place where that universal consciousness is not there. What we see as a differentiated vision of life, a fragmented vision of life, is because we don't experience that consciousness which is all pervading. We keep on seeing the waves, missing the ocean which is all pervading. Jyotirmaya, he is of the nature of light. This light is not physical light, the light of awareness. Light of awareness is the real light. The physical light is used for chasing away darkness. Where there is light, there is no darkness. But there is a light which lights up both darkness and light. That light is light of awareness. That's why all realizations, divine realizations, are explained as experience of light of million suns. We have to understand this in bit detail. I can see sunlight, I can see sun. The sun can be seen only if my vision is alright, if our eyesight. The eyesight consciousness is mightier and more powerful than the sunlight. If there are no eyes, there is no sunlight. My eyes light up the sun. The consciousness of eyes lights up the sun. So the consciousness of eyes is greater than the sunlight. Eyes are okay, but mind is disturbed, mind is agitated, mind is abnormal. Then even if you are seeing something, the mind is not able to focus. When you are not able to focus, mind will not recognize what you see. The mind consciousness is greater than the eye consciousness. The mind has to be directed by the intellect. If the intellect doesn't direct the mind, mind itself doesn't function. The consciousness of the intellect is greater than the mind consciousness. But all this consciousness is lit up by my inner witness consciousness. The witness consciousness is greater than the mind, the intellect, the eyesight and the sunlight. What is the light of witness consciousness? That is the light of awareness. That light of awareness is the Atma Jyoti. He is of the nature of Atma Jyoti, the light of the self. The consciousness is all pervading. It's of the nature of light of awareness. The awareness lights the darkness and sunlight. Sunlight, when there is sunlight, the darkness disappears. Sunlight has never seen darkness. Darkness has never seen sunlight, because when the darkness is present, sunlight is absent. One who is able to recognize both darkness and light is the light of awareness. That light of awareness is what you are. That light of awareness is what is pervading throughout the universe. Every aspect of universe is pervaded with light of awareness. What you see, what you experience is nothing but light of awareness alone. So this understanding will lead to freedom. Ashariri, he is, there is no body for him. There is no body for the consciousness. How is it possible? All bodies are in consciousness, and the consciousness is all bodies. but there is no body for the consciousness. There is no body for the awareness. It is like this: the gold and ornaments, gold and the jewelry. All jewelries have a form, whether it's a ring or a necklace or a chain, there is a form for the gold. But the gold is formless. Gold is all pervading reality for all kinds of jewelries. Similarly, every form in the universe is pervaded by the awareness alone. That is the reality. There is no body, there is no limitation of body, because the awareness lights up all the bodies. Bodies are in awareness, but awareness itself, there is no body. It's all pervading. There is no nara in the sense, the neural system. The consciousness has no neural system, because consciousness is the light which lights up the nervous system. Light of consciousness which lights up the nervous system. Consciousness itself doesn't require nervous system. The presence of the consciousness lights up the nervous system, and because it lights up the nervous system, you are able to experience the world, the diversity, multiplicity. But the awareness itself doesn't require a nervous system, because it's the light, it's self-light, it's a self-awareness. It's pure. The purity and impurity, we have different concepts in life. Somebody says this is pure or that is impure based on the effect of that on the health. It's pure water, it's impure water. The impure water affects my health. The pure water doesn't affect my health. The purity and impurity in the world is also determined by what you call as the social and ethical behavior. So this is a pure character, will say. The character, we give a certificate based on ethical and moral values of the society. The awareness is purest of pure. There is no possibility of any impurity in that. Impurity can be there in duality. Impurity is only a contrast. It's a contrast. It's a relative term. With respect to something, it can be pure or impure. Impurity is a relative viewpoint. With respect to something, we can say something is pure or impure. But there is no concept of purity or impurity in the absolute, because purity and impurity both are lit up by the pure awareness. One which lights up both impurity and purity, that itself is always pure. There is no way this impurity can enter there. Another way of looking at impurity is the purity of the purity or impurity belongs to the material nature, prakriti. Material nature is made up of three qualities: sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna. Three qualities of nature make up the material nature. Sattva, rajas, tamas. Sattva guna is dullness, cruelty, violence. Not sattva guna. Tamo guna is dullness, sleepiness, cruelty, violence. Sattva guna is associated with knowledge, peace, bliss. With respect to tamo guna, sattva guna is purer. But the consciousness itself is free from these gunas, this nature. Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Vibhishana and Rama. Ravana represents Rajoguna, hyperactivity. Activity leading to harassment or trouble for others also, including kidnapping. Kumbhakarna represents Tamoguna, sleepiness, dullness, eating, sleeping, inactivity. Vibhishana represents Sattva-guna, constantly thinking of divine and positive. Rama represents Atma Rama, in the inner self, one who is of the nature of dharma. Similarly, the consciousness is free from three qualities of nature. The quality of consciousness is always light and awareness. There is no impurity in it. The awareness can never become dull because it's self-aware. Yeah.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
So in the state of pure consciousness, that let's say we are in a state of pure consciousness or awareness, then we can choose at any time to bring Rajoguna or Sattva-guna or anything.
See, this Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, Tamoguna.
We can choose to play with these gunas and then leave it.
No, see, the question is, there are for a person who is Atmadnani or self-realized, he abides in consciousness all the time. He abides in awareness. Right? Then he uses the body-mind complex for interacting with the world. Okay? But his ability to bring about anything in the world is limited to the vehicle, the nature of vehicle which he has. If the nature of the nature of limitation of the vehicle places limitation on what he can bring forth in the world. So instead of saying play with the qualities of nature, he uses the body-mind complex for interacting and working with the material nature. Now all of us, forget about enlightened one, we play with the three qualities of nature. We interact with nature, we create, participate in the nature with three modes of nature. Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. That's what we do day in and day out. Right? Only thing which is missing in us is the awareness of the self. A person who has become aware of the self still uses the body-mind complex to play and interact with the material nature. But anytime he will not miss his self-awareness. That's the only difference. So, what was that? Is that answers your question or question?
What it leads to is opening up the state of permanence and awareness. Also, several times you have said that the mind has to be pure. Naturally, the mind को पूरा एक करको इससे impurity drop आ जाएगा और realization
See,
but consciousness itself is neither pure nor impure.
no, consciousness is pure because it's the consciousness which lights up the mind. The purity in that sense. Okay? It's not pure or impure in the sense of the worldly sense. The light of awareness by which both purity and impurity is known is always pure. It's a light. It's not a term which used purity or impurity in the sense of the worldly sense. Now the mind has to be pure, we have to understand it a little bit in a more clear way. The nature of the mind is of three types: Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattva-guna. Tamoguna means the ability or forgetfulness. The mind has the ability to create vain, create forgetfulness. Rajoguna means the mind has the ability to project. Sattva-guna is the ability of the mind to know. So what happens?
To know you
Sorry?
That's what you mean?
Yeah.
Is it supposed to get clarity?
Clarity. So what happens is in the predominance of tamoguna, your self-awareness is gone. You become purely object conscious. Okay. In rajo, that's tamoguna, effect of tamoguna. Self is forgotten. You identify with the object. Rajoguna is projection. It projects the body, mind, and various concepts on the world. So when you are trapped in this forgetfulness and concepts, your self nature cannot be revealed. The mind which becomes sattva-guna, predominantly sattva-guna, has the ability to see through this projection and veiling. Is called avarana and vikshepa. Avarana means covering. It's like a drunkard, a person who has taken alcohol. He suddenly starts seeing the things which are moving. The road is moving, the building is moving, the sun is moving, the stars are moving, everything is moving. In fact, reality, he has taken some alcohol. Right? Then he forgets himself. Who is he? His name is forgotten. So the forgetfulness is called tamoguna. The projection of roads and everything moving is called rajoguna. Okay. When he becomes free from the effect of alcohol, he is able to see things as they are. He is able to recollect what he is. So same thing happens to us in a state of avidya or ignorance. We forget our self nature and we identify with the body and mind. There is a avarana, which is forgetfulness. Then there is a projection, see the body and mind and identify with that. These two will happen. As the sattva-guna becomes predominant, you will be able to see through this illusion, see through the illusion of the projection and forgetfulness, and become more and more peaceful because of association with your own nature. And the mind becomes so pure that it reflects the self as it is. A pure mind, sattva-guna, is a part of the Atma, the self, Sat quality, Sat Chit Ananda. It merges with the Sat Chit Ananda. Sadhana is the same. Sadhana is the same.
Sadhana can make exercise, meditation, anything that leads to calmness.
Sadhana is there is a range of practices. What we call as shamatha practice. Shamatha means the practice which brings calmness of the mind. The mind calms down, making breath observation, making certain meditations. Mind calms down. So the calming down of the mind is a prerequisite for any careful observation. A mind cannot observe in a state of agitation. So the calming down of the mind is called samatha, shamatha. Then in that calm down state of the mind, if you are able to observe what is the nature of the world and what is the nature of your body-mind complex very clearly, that's called vipassana, to see things as they are. So these twin practices of shamatha and vipassana is what Buddha used for enlightenment. That's called vipassana meditation. It's a nice practice. So whenever we say meditation and all, it's a combination of this shamatha and vipassana in various degrees. Then another practice which is required is what we call as listening to the enlightened viewpoints. These are all enlightened viewpoints, Shastra, especially Upanishad. They are all realization of the sages. So listen to these realizations, contemplate on that, so that your mental cobweb gets clear. The mental clarity emerges. So vipassana, shamatha, shravana, manana, nididhyasa. This is a complete set of practice. Most of the practice we do are variants of this. The other way I will say, for a very qualified person who has attained already shamatha of the mind, whose mind has become purified with Shravana Manidhyasa, the simple process of self-inquiry will free him from all the bondages. Self-inquiry is a very simple process which can destroy the ignorance straight away. So, if you ask me the practices, Shravana Manana Nididhyasa, listening to the teachings of the scriptures or enlightened viewpoints, Manana is understanding that, Nididhyasa is contemplating on that, so that your concepts gets clarified. Shamatha is calming down the mind. Vipassana is to see the mind and its nature and nature of the world as it is the way of practice. For a person who is mature, already has become mature, a simple self-inquiry is more than sufficient for liberation. There is no touch of sin with that consciousness. When we say sin in the sense of the world, okay, it's all relative term. A sinner and a saint, they are related to the quality of material nature. Tamo guna, rajo guna, sattva guna. The Chaitanya has no touch of these gunas. It's free from these gunas. So there's no concept of sin in that. Kavihi is most knowledgeable. Since the awareness is the light of all lights, it lights up everything in the world, including your body, mind complex, the intellect, the memory, and the whole world. It's called Kavi. Kavi means the wise one. Sarvottama, he is the greater than the greatest. He is the supreme. Swayambhu, everything else has a cause and effect. So, in anything in the world, we say cause and effect. I did something, I got some result. This did something, this got result. This happened, there's a result. There's always a cause and effect relationship associated in the world. But what we miss is every cause and effect is connected with the cause of all causes, which is consciousness. The consciousness which supports all activities in the world. Every cause and effect is connected with the cause of all causes, which is consciousness, which itself is causeless. There is nothing which has caused the consciousness. Consciousness is not caused by something. It is Swayambhu. It is self-born. Everything else is born out of consciousness. It is, in other words, it is saying, if you analyze something, you can go to a root cause. Right? Scientists look into the world. They say the world is made up of matter. Matter is made up of atoms. Atom is made up of molecules. Molecules are made up of electrons, protons. Electrons and protons are made up of energy. And go beyond that, what is there? We don't know. Alright? You have hit the root cause. The same thing happens in us. We go from object consciousness called world to sense consciousness, to the mind consciousness, to the intellect consciousness, to the witness consciousness, to the universal consciousness, to the supreme consciousness. Beyond that we cannot go. The supreme consciousness is the root of all causes. Cause of all causes is the root cause. It is Swayambhu. Nobody made it. It exists by itself. So there is one Kannada poetry or Kannada bhajan where Dasa says, You are called Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Bhagavan is addressed as Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. What is Anathanatha? He is the protector of Natha, means there is no master. One who has no master, one who has no husband, or one who has nobody to take care, one who has orphaned. For that he is Natha, Anathanatha. The God alone is the caretaker for all the orphaned. Dina Bandhu, one who is in trouble, it is the God who takes care. This is the way God is addressed in most of the literature. Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Dasa says, it's very, very ironic. We are not Anatha. We have somebody to take care. That you are there to take care. But you are Anatha because you have no master. You have nobody to take care of you. You have to live by yourself. The God, the consciousness has nobody else above that. You are the Anatha. We are the Natha. We have some protection. There is somebody for taking care of you. Right? It is like this. In a company, there is always somebody over above. An employee has a boss to question and take care. Boss has a boss. Boss has a boss. Ultimately it comes to CEO. And CEO is accountable to the board. What is above the board? Nobody. So all the decisions they have to make and go ahead in life. Similarly, Paramatma, there is nobody above that consciousness. It is the supreme. If we have a trouble, we can always go back to God. But if God has trouble, he has nobody to go back because he is alone, all alone. Okay. Then he is the one who distributes the work to all. The material nature and non-material nature, each of them have some quality. The living and non-living has some quality. Let us take the sun and the moon and the earth, everything. Each of them are operating with a precise law. We can call them as scientific laws. There's a sunrise, there's a sunset. There's a gravitational force, there's some precise operation. The atoms and molecules operate in certain way. Your body-mind complex operates in certain way. It has a proper operation. Who made all these laws? The consciousness made these laws and assigned to the material nature, assigned it to living and non-living beings, and nobody can violate that law. So that's why Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varanyam Maya Srishtyam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. I have created 4 Varnas, they are called Chatur Varnya. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya.